What's up, my DBE fam, little trendsetters you are? Welcome back to the show. We're having a fun conversation today about one of my favorite things, which is our house remodel. And I promise there is value here. So if you didn't know, fashion and interior design are my two favorite things. I obviously love running my business. I love being a dog mom. There's a lot of things that I love. But when it comes to what really gets me going, the things that I love to focus on, the things that I'm spending my own personal time on, hobbies and stuff like that, it's interior design and fashion. And if you didn't know, I actually took interior design classes in school, and my senior project was redoing a room. And my mom she was kind enough to allow me to redo our entire family room. Like the house that I grew up in, we literally knocked walls down. We did the entire thing, like redid the floors, knocked walls down, moved things around, and then obviously designed it from there. And that was my senior project. And of course, I got an A on it. But then I went to fashion school. So yeah, two things you might not have known about me. Interior design and fashion are not just loves of mine and passions of mine. They are things that I've actually gone to school for, things that if I weren't, it's always like, if you weren't doing what you were doing now, what would you be doing? If I wasn't in health and fitness or didn't go to school for physical therapy and was a personal trainer and a phys ed teacher, like I likely would have been in either fashion. That's why I went to school for it, or interior design in some capacity. So anyway, we're doing a house remodel right now. And I say that really loosely, like remodel in quotes. We're not really doing much of a remodel. When we bought this house, we had the intention to do a lot of remodeling. We actually thought for sure we'd be coming in and not like blowing walls out like crazy and flipping the place, but we definitely thought we'd be doing a lot more work than we currently are because the universe had other plans for us. And we have to do a bunch of work on the house that we don't necessarily want to do, not complaining about it, but we thought we had a good like 5 years left for the roof. And the first week we moved in, there was a crazy storm that they have not seen down here in I don't even know how many years. Long story short, we need to replace the roof. And if you've ever done that before, it's obviously very costly. And while we live in abundance, there are just certain things that also just don't make sense, right? So we don't want to be willy-nilly with our funds. We want to be smart about it. So with the roof that we have to replace, we also have to remove the chimney, and then we have to replace the furnace, and then we had to do the hot water heater. And like, you know how it goes. You know how it goes. It's like one little project turns into another like 55 projects. So what we had allotted for sort of really doing work on the house kind of got chewed up. And so it's not that we're never going to do it, it's just gotten put off. And that brings me to the conversation. We have been doing small things instead while we have the time, and sort of to gain us more time before we want to do other work. And to be honest, most of the work we wanted to do, it's not functional. Like we wanted to paint the entire inside of the house. We don't care for any color on the inside. And it's a very large house, and we've had multiple quotes, and it's absolutely insane. And while we can paint some of the rooms ourselves, the main portion of the house has very high vaulted ceilings, which would require scaffolding. And like, they're just not necessarily DIY projects for us. Maybe for you, but not for us. So a lot of the stuff doesn't necessarily add value to our lives or the home or functionality. It's just things we wanted to change. And so it's just not that important. So we've been prioritizing what is important. And with that, we've been making a lot of small changes. So in the kitchen, when we moved in, they had gold, like 1990s, like shiny gold handles on everything. And we wanted to change all those. So, 30, 40 handles later, we swapped all the gold handles out and we put like a more modern black handle on everything. And my goodness, did it make a difference. And then we have a bunch of doors, internal doors in the house, like to bedrooms and bathrooms and stuff like that. Also had gold, like kind of curly Q, like squiggly wiggly handles. And we changed all those handles to a more modern black square matte finish handle. And with that, we had to change all the hinges. We didn't have to, but there were gold hinges. So we changed all the hinges, all of the cabinet handles. This house has a lot of built-ins. There's a lot of like beautiful character in the home that we bought. It's a beautiful mountain home. And so all the cabinet handles have been swapped out at this point. So it's stuff like that that we're changing for right now, while all the big things are getting fixed as well. And what I realized was every time we make the tiniest change, like literally last night, we changed the built-in cabinet handles that are in the basement. So that's like the movie pit area that we have. And it's like the lounge hangout, like real comfy movie pit area. And there's these beautiful built-ins. They have shelves and cabinets, and there are 6 little handles. And again, they had like a really squiggly, wiggly, curly Q gold just didn't really go with what we wanted to do. So not our vibe. We ordered new handles. And last night, Mike and I changed the 6 handles, and then we sat on the couch to watch a show. And my goodness, like the 6 handles, nothing else changed in the room. I didn't hang a painting. We didn't paint anything. Like we literally changed 6 3-inch handles, not big. And it was like the entire room transformed. And so I had this epiphany where it was like, gosh, it's kind of like in business. When we make the tiniest little change, the biggest transformation happens. Wait, that kind of sounds like personal development. The tiniest little change can equal the largest transformation. And so I started to kind of go through in my head, what are some of the tiny little changes, the things that we do inside the business that really create so much of the momentum, so much of the word of mouth, the referral, the community, the retention for clients, the revenue that we're bringing in? Because here's the thing. I don't remember who said it. W. Clement, I think it was W. Clement, said an iteration of big doors swing on small hinges. And then there actually been books that have been written called Small Hinges Swing Big Doors. This idea that like we changed the doors to the hinges to all the doors, right? So the inside doors are light, but like the garage door, the main house door, very heavy, chunky wood, like huge door. And there's these 3 tiny little 3 or 4 inch hinges. And when you think about it, it's like this hundreds and hundreds of pounds of door with glass is hanging, for lack of a better term, on these 3 little 3-inch steel hinges. Like that's incredible that the tiniest little foundation, the tiniest little change, the tiniest little piece of structure can actually hold hundreds and hundreds of pounds of wood and glass. So stick with me here. As we remodel, all of this keeps coming up. And I thought of just 3 things, like super short and sweet, 3 things in the business that we do with examples of how these tiny little hinges swing these huge, massive doors in our business. So the first one is the context or theme of culture. We have a deep desire in our company to work on culture, whether culture is internal with our team or culture is internal with our community, like our clients, or culture is external with our audience and our community externally. But it starts from the top down. It starts from the inside. So just like 2 examples real quick, one of the things that we do to create culture is we have team happy hours virtually. Once a month, we have team happy hours. It's not mandatory, but we have everyone come and pretty much we get 100% attendance almost every time because they're so fun. And Lauren, who's the head of our customer success, and she's the COO of the company, she sort of spearheads this. She loves talking culture. And so she'll come up with a different theme of the month. And she'll come up, sometimes we have like trivia night. Sometimes it's dress like your favorite decade, or, it's an 80s party, a luau party. We've done show and tell in the past where Mike and I literally showed up with lightsabers because we were staying at my brother's house. And if you know my brother at all, that makes sense. So there's things that we'll do. She's had us bring like baby pictures and talk about stories from like, whenever it was our childhood and stuff. So once a month, we have these team culture happy hours virtually, and they're so fun. And it's such a great way for us to actually connect with each other because we're working with each other every single day. And some of these people on the team, I actually talk to more than I talk to Lauren more than I talk to my parents or any friend. I talk to her equally as much as Mike, and I live with him. You know what I mean? So when you're spending that much time with someone, it's so important. And another thing that we do with our team internally for culture is each week we pick a core value winner. So we have core values in the company that we expect you to live into. We hire and fire based on these core values. Not to say if you don't have that value, you're going to get fired, but if something is out of alignment or we're unsure about keeping someone around and we might want to, exit them from the company, we check in with our core values, and those values are helping us make the decision of making it a little bit more black and white, right? Because as you build a team, as you build clients, as you build all that stuff, you build personal relationships. And the personal relationships, kind of like a romantic relationship, that's what makes it hard to leave. That's what makes it hard to break up with someone. Like, even if you know it's not a good relationship for you, you're like, yeah, but we've had really good times together. And this one time they really were kind to me. And I love that particular memory. And so the personal connection is what makes it really hard to like make that decision. But when you have clear values, it's like, well, they're not living into that, right? Based on this value, they're out of integrity, right? Out of XYZ. So we use our core values every week and we run a contest. And with that contest, we pick someone who is living into that core value throughout the week. And then we give them a prize. We actually give out Amazon gift cards. And so it's not like life-changing, here's a private jet, have your Oprah moment, you get a car, you get a car. But it's just a really fun way to create that culture, continue the feeling of being a part of something. I was an athlete my whole life. Like there's nothing cooler than feeling like you're a part of a team, like having that people to support you and back you up and cheer you on and you can lean on them. And we want that in our business, especially because when it comes to our executive core leadership team, like our C-suite, if you will, everybody works with us and pretty much only with us for the most part. But when it comes to our team of coaches, they're all also running their own businesses. So they all have their own business. They might even have their own small teams. They might have they have their own clients. They're doing their own things. And then they work with us in our business as well. So it's really important that we make sure everybody's feeling that they're part of it and they can like live into the mission and the vision. And it's funny because every week when we give out like our core value winner, we make them do like a little speech at the end, like they're getting a Grammy. And it's crazy how actually grateful and excited they are off of like something that feels so silly and insignificant. So an example of a small hinge swinging a really big door. From there, I'm going to go to the second hinge. That's the top hinge on the door. The second hinge in the middle is going to be our community. And some of the ways that we create community and we make sure that these tiny little hinges are actually working to hold the door up is something as simple as when we start, let's say, our signature program, Empower, which we just started a couple weeks ago. One of the first homework assignment is that they need to connect with someone that's both on their team as well as off their team. So when they come into Empower, we split them up into smaller teams and cohorts. I don't want to be in a room of 100 people. I don't think that that's intimate and boutique at all. So if we have 100 people in the class, we split them into 4 classes, mini classes of 25, and they're on teams. And so you have to connect with people on your team as well as other teams. My goodness, like this homework assignment, the Facebook page was flooded with people commenting. I didn't ask them to. People just being like, that was the best exercise ever. I can't believe that I met this person from Australia. I live in Dubai. That was so cool. Of course, the universe connected me with someone who is the perfect fit. I actually was just looking for someone to help me with XYZ, and that's exactly what that person does. Oh my God, that person felt like a soul sister. It's so cool and it's so simple. And we do it too when we're on calls. So like we'll be on a coaching call or we'll be on a free community call, which we host. We do free community calls if you didn't know that. And so we'll be on a free community coaching call and I'll tell people in the chat box, like, jump into the chat right now, put your Instagram handle in there, go connect with the person above you, go ask questions and see if you can answer questions for each other, right? Like creating that community. And then another thing that we do too, we have so many things that we do, but within our community, we have an area for our alumni. We have a digital directory where our alumni can connect with each other because I really want to foster that community. So what could feel like a really small hinge or like, whoop-de-doo, she changed the doorknob, like how big of a deal can it make the biggest transformations. And then the last hinge of the door, take you down to the bottom of the door here, is gamifying. Like what human doesn't want things to be fun, especially in business? So we do things, whether again, it's for our team or our clients or our external community, we'll do things to gamify the approach because most of us are competitive. Most of us, even if we don't play to win, we still want to play for the experience, right? And so one of the things that we do even inside of, let's say, Empower, that signature program I was just talking about, we have bingo. Like we play bingo every single month. So the program's 3 months long, and every month there's a focus. Month 1 is all about foundations, 2 is marketing, and 3 is launching and sales. And so every single month there are a lot of different homework assignments and things that we expect the client to do. We're walking them through the process. They're not doing it themselves. But every month we have a bingo board, and on the bingo board is a variety of mindset-based things, tactical, like action-based things. Some of them are harder than others. So let me give you an example. For the first month, setting up your LLC or your business bank account, that might be a square on the actual bingo board, but also another square might be, I raised my hand on a call and asked a question. So sometimes it's like, they're a little bit easier. They're a little bit more mindset related. And when people black out the board, so if there are 12 squares on the board, you have to black the board out, meaning knock all your squares out. And when your board is blacked out, you post evidence in the post that you have done it. It could be, you could print it and show us on paper, or you could take a virtual screenshot and show us with like check marks. And then you're put into a pool. And every month, at the end of the month, we pick winners and we give them prizes. And so it's like incentive to do your homework. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's no different than in elementary school, teachers would have prize boxes. I don't know if they are still doing this, but I mean, I only left teaching 7 years ago and they still were doing it. So from when I was a child, 35, 40 years ago in school, to when I was teaching 7 years ago, teachers had prize boxes. And it was an incentive for whatever. It could be good behavior. It could be whoever got their work done, the fastest, who was the quietest during an assembly, something like that. It was like, then you get to go to the prize box. Or when you answer, 5 weeks of the bonus question on your weekly spelling quiz or whatever, you get to go to the prize box. And it might just be, they were like handwritten, it was like certificates that said like student of the week, or like one of those plastic little frogs that when you push it, it like flips, or those little like rubbery bounce balls, like silly things. But the act of having that sort of incentive and gamification really gets people motivated. And what's funny, haha, is it works more for adults than it does for kids. I assure you of that. It works more for adults than it does for kids. And I believe that is true because we get so far away from fun, play, competition, lack of judgment, and just doing, questioning, curiosity. We get so far away from that as we get older, because with that now comes judgment. We don't want to look stupid. We don't want to look silly. We don't want to mess up. When you're a kid, there's just so much freedom that we have in doing and trying and playing, and it's okay and it's welcomed. But as we get older, somewhere in like the teens, we start to shut that part of us off. And this happens with creativity as well. We shut it off. We tell ourselves that we're not creative, which is ridiculous. We're all creative. We're literally creators. That's what we do. We create life. But we shut it off because we don't think it's as good as someone else's, or we didn't get into the special choir. So now we tell ourselves we're not creative, or because we're not good at painting, we're not artistic in that capacity, we think we're not creative. But creation is far beyond art, and it's far beyond music, and it's far beyond writing. Creation is everything in your everyday life. So anyway, the gamification really helps adults move. This is why I believe when there are offers where people put something out and like the price increases, it's not just the urgency or scarcity that gets adults to make a move. It's the gamification of it. It's like oh my goodness, so you have to jump on this train before it leaves without me. It's like the rush that we get from doing it, the rush that we get from seeing it. And so I think this is also why some elements of branding are working so well, because when you bring in the feeling and the vibe and the activation, it's activating within us a part of us that feels like our childhood self. So with the bingo boards, we also gamify other things. Like we have our clients do video diaries. So not just testimonials, like, yeah, cool, give me a testimonial when you're done in 12 weeks. That's great. I love that, right? But do a video diary so that you actually have something that you can look back on when you're in your future self. Because golly, I love nothing more than going back into my phone and finding baby Jess from 12 years ago going live on Periscope, fumbling all over her words, like trying to set up a cute background in my basement. Like I love all the evidence of my own journey, and I wish I had more of it. I wish that I didn't shut my blog down and like gone poof forever. Like I was naive enough. I didn't save those blog posts anywhere. And when I stopped paying for that website and that domain name, I just shut that blog off. And I'm like, man, I wish I had access to that blog nowadays. Like, I wish I still had evidence, at least screenshots and PDFs of all of those pages. Like, I should have saved everything before I shut it down. And so we have them doing video diary submissions where it's not just for them, but it's for us. It's for both. It's like mutually beneficial. We can see where they're at and what they're working on and what they're proud of and what they're excited about. And then they get to keep it. And just by submitting it to us, where we're like holding it for them, we give out prizes. Like, again, incentives. We do things to gamify. So just to recap again, three quick things that came to my mind while we were changing these hinges last night was like, okay, cool. We do this with like culture. We do this with community. We do this by gamifying. And I could probably come up with a list of a million other things, but I just want you to get out of this episode and realize that the tiniest shift in your business, the tiniest shift in your habits, the tiniest shift in your language and the way that you speak to yourself is going to create the biggest transformation. And if you don't believe me, well, you're going to have to check out some of my reels of these before and afters, because it literally looks like we remodeled the kitchen and all we did was change the handles. Like, no lie. Your brain just goes to like, oh, it looks more modern, but I didn't change the profile of the cabinets. They're not like a modern shaker profile. They're still like a classic custom build profile with like some divots and stuff. But just changing the handles just makes the kitchen look so different. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. And I'd love to know if you're curious to see some of the house remodel stuff, because like I said, it is my favorite thing to do. And we're having a really like a blast doing it. And it's just these tiny little things. It's a little bit of paint here. And I will tell you that the project I'm working on this weekend, which I'm really excited about, because you can stop if you don't care, but I think this is super fun because we have to change out the fireplace and the furnace and all these things. We are not going to have a working fireplace for quite some time. We could change the whole fireplace out right now, but we don't want to. We're approaching summer. It's just not important to us. It doesn't matter. It's totally fine. So we popped some like, LED candles that have like a remote control thing and a bunch of like cool lights inside. But what we're actually doing this weekend is we're going to paint the inside. So the inside of the fireplace is currently like a white brick, not white, but like, a natural brick, like a gray brick. So we're going to paint all that black. There's like a brass frame around the outside of the fireplace before you get to the tile. So we're going to paint the brass black as well. And then the tile that they have around the fireplace is very pink. It's just not my vibe. It's like just too pink for me. So we're actually tiling over that tile and we're just replacing it to update it and make it more of a modern look with a gray and white Carrera gray and white Carrera herringbone pattern. And we're doing that this weekend. It'll be done like really quickly, but I know without even starting the project, I know it's going to make such a big difference because it's also the focal point of the great room. Like the fireplace is literally the focal point of the great room. And so by just changing that small thing out while we're not painting the entire room right now, because again, the scaffolding and all the things, that in itself is just going to just give it a completely different breath, a different vibe, a different energy. And so take that and think about that in your business. What tiny little thing can you focus on right now? Can you update right now? Can you tweak or modify right now in your business or in your everyday life, your habits, that would make a really big transformation for you? And the way that you see yourself and the way that others see you and the way that you run your business and the way that you're taking care of your health and the way that you're approaching your relationships. Like, think about that. Maybe it's drink more water. Maybe it's stop during the middle of the day, set your alarm to stop in the middle of the day to take a couple deep breaths. Maybe it's going from 5-minute meditations to 7-minute meditations. Maybe it's taking an extra walk outside and getting into the sun, taking your shoes off and grounding your feet into the ground. Maybe it's trying a new supplement or a product like the one I'm loving, Glossy, right? Maybe it is, I don't know, reading a different type of book. If you've been reading business books and marketing books and sales books for the last 4 years, try fiction. I dare you. It's incredible what it does for the brain and for the creativity and for the inspiration. All right, my friends, I got to go get to I get to remodeling. I don't have to. I get to remodeling. And I will be taking you along on the journey on Instagram. So make sure you're following along. I'm going to pop up some reels of these before and afters. And as always, work on those little hinges so you can swing some big doors. Cheers to your evolutions, my friend. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.